the direction of that child should, or the attention of that child and the activity of that child should have been redirected. Teachers can throw up their hands in horror and say, we don't have time to do that. Well, if they don't have time to do that, then the children shouldn't even be in the classroom. That day is a lost, or hour or 5 minutes is a lost and a sad affair. I wanted to touch on those, and the only other thing I want to add to that is that to ostracize or to remove a child from the group, we are born needing groups. We're not hermits. That's a very difficult, it could be a very cruel thing to do. Rejection is probably one of the cruelest things we can do one to another. I've seen marriages crumble under rejection, man to wife or wife to man. It perhaps has to be used occasionally, but it should be used very carefully and very short timing, and only in areas where you're just desperate and cannot handle the situation at one time. There again with Jeffrey in the group, he wanted to be in all the groups, whatever was going on here, no matter what age or what was going on. And then he would want attention. Most children want attention, particularly if they're not within their own activity in their own group. So I would have to say to him occasionally, and this is so sweet of group reactions too, I'd say, Jeffrey, Mother can't go on with her work and you're disturbing the children, you just might go upstairs for a few minutes. So he would obediently go. And then the ice cream truck's going on. I don't know how he makes a living, nobody on the street ever stops him. And he would slip down and peek through the banisters, step by step, and be looking. And the children would say, I was very conscious of the children would find, Mama, don't let Jeffrey come. We like him here. And that, of course, he loved, and that was good, too, from the children, because he realized if he didn't conform to whatever was going on in the group, or be acceptable, why he loved being in the group. And the children wanted him, he wanted the children. But that, again, I just have to say that, and I think it's just terrible when they say you're expelled for 3 days because of your behavior. That's no time for a child to be removed. That's when they need the help most. But I guess, again, teachers, we're short of teachers, or we're short of something, or we're short of parents. And where does the child go? Okay, I'll leave that for a bit. And Mark, what I want to talk some more about Mary Johnson, because as I spoke to Mark when he came in, the philosophy, Mary Johnson's philosophy is so well covered in the library now, documented in writing, videotaping, in the picture form and the artifacts. But what apparently, there isn't much told about her life. She writes almost nothing about her life except touches on some interesting little anecdotes in her 30 Years from an Idea. So I just want to tell you more about her in my life, perhaps me after we were married, or when I came to the school home in that fall. One of my fondest memories is with her, and generally can, unless he was busy putting the boys to bed or whatever, in front of the fireplace in that school home. See, this was in the late fall now, before we were married. Wonderful talks with her. Go ahead. Mark's having to fix the lights or whatever. Looks like we're going to have a storm. The sun's going under. One of the things earliest that I observed when I got in and with my duties, I think I've mentioned to you, all I had to do was set the table. But I watched the schedule of the school home mother, who was my sister. Kenneth who was a school home father, and I was supposed to be assistant school home mother, and there was assistant school home father. And the cook, and janitorial business, and everything. And I guess I was pretty critical. I thought it was very poorly worked out, poor structure. And I fretted over it a little. Some of it perhaps was because there seemed to be no time, that Kenneth had any time off and we could be together. So I began to study it very carefully, and I made out my own schedule of what I thought would work. I didn't know Mrs. Johnson was still Mrs. Johnson to me then. And when she was pensive, in deep thought, this sounds strange, but she'd sit in front of the fireplace and she would swing the leg. She wore kind of a health shoe, an ugly black shoe, and always gunmetal hose. And she was stocky built, although to me she was a very beautiful woman. And when she was doing that, and especially if she was playing solitaire, she was in deep thought. You learn that. But sometimes it was quieter, and maybe she would be sitting there. You'd think then she was doing more of the deep thinking, but you learned that wasn't the time. So one evening I approached her, and I said, Mrs. Johnson, I'm not happy with the way the schedule is in the schoolhouse. Oh? She said, do you have something better to offer? I said, I think I do. She says, well, have you written it? I said, yes, I do, and I have it with me. She said, well, let me see it. She looked at it quickly, and she said, well, you might have something here. Why don't we try it? Well, we tried it, and it worked like a dream. I think that got her attention of being a little more conscious of who I might be. But I had wonderful evenings with her, and as I say, often can be with me. At that time, she never went into anything in her personal life. It was more about what was going on at school, what we needed, what she hoped to do. And I remember one of the things she used to say, we need to look at our curriculum. I think we need a change in our curriculum. And she didn't mean now that anything in the teaching or the development of the child, I'm only talking about subject matter, particularly in the high school. And I think she was right. I know she was right. She would have lauded the computer if it was used at the right time. She wouldn't have fought that. She wouldn't have fought the advanced science, the high tech. She was very progressive in her thinking and realizing what society needed. But she always felt if the individual was developing in its wholeness, mental, spiritual, and physical, that we would handle these situations and handle them wisely. Pressures, whatever comes to society. And then as I knew her better, and I think I told you about the piano and how she bought me a little piano, and then about us being married. And that spring, I didn't see her a lot that spring, because she was traveling a lot still at that time. Now we're talking 1936. I saw no decline in her health at that time. But when she came back in the fall of 1936, she thought it better that Kenny not teach, that he try to get a job. She simply couldn't pay anybody. And a few loyal ones, a couple of wonderful teachers, stayed on for nothing. And she continued to travel. She wasn't there a lot that winter. And then she died in 1938. That summer, and I told you the story about the little house and how we didn't have the payments to make because the state was in, so forth and so on. And so our first was planned. And I was very, very ill through my pregnancy. All 9 months I was desperately ill. But that summer, I would trudge up every afternoon up the hill to sit with Aunt Nettie on the front porch of that school home. I wouldn't take anything for those long, hot summer afternoons. And we talked at great length. That's when she told me more of her personal life. And she, again, stated about